What's up, y'all? Welcome to another Successful Sundays. I'm, of course, Coach AJ, Dope Life Coach, the dopest life coach out there. And we're going to start off with just taking 3 deep breaths just to kind of cleanse and clear out the air. Whatever things that we had that was holding us back a little bit last week, we're going to release it because we're getting into a brand new week ahead. So let's take 3 deep breaths in through our nose, out through our mouth, and sigh it out when you're, releasing the energy. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. One more, 2 more times. In through your nose, out through your mouth. One last time. In through your nose. Sigh it out. Yeah, we're going to let that energy out. Today, we're going to be talking about hustle culture. And kind of what brought this thought process was just over the last like couple of hours, to be honest, of how much we believe into what the hustle culture really is and that we need to hustle hard in order to make things work. But what I've learned throughout my journey, whether in a professional career or as an entrepreneur, is that you actually don't need to hustle hard. You don't need to hustle hard at all. You just need to be very much to have a plan and be strategic. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about burnout today as well, because burnout and hustle culture kind of fortunately work very close together. A lot of us could be diagnosed with burnout after the fact. I'm doing a little bit of research on burnout right now, and particularly burnout in Black women, women of color that are entrepreneurs. One of the things that I'm noticing is that the statistics that the studies are coming up with, I have questions. A, who they're asking. B, they're saying that the number, like I read one where it's 31% of women experience burnout as entrepreneurs. And I couldn't help but think, who did they ask for this? And what do they look like? And did they even have time to do this uh, study, to do the survey? The reason why I thought about that is as women, we carry a lot of hats. We have a lot of hats, not just as entrepreneurs, that's adding to the mix of everything that we do, not to mention our personal life and the obligations, responsibilities that we have. So I couldn't help but think like the studies could be missing a big portion of people they're not asking. When we think about burnout, I think we think about the exhaustion half, we think about the lack of confidence, the stagnation. But if you have been told to constantly be resilient for so many times, like in your life, just push through, just push through. How are you going to really be able to identify what burnout really looks like for you? Because I think it looks different for everybody, right? So, a few ways of identifying burnout is fatigue, tiredness. I was feeling heavily fatigued today. And at one point, I just put the laptop away and I just kind of laid down underneath a weighted blanket. That works for me to kind of get through my fatigue. And I have and still kind of have a bit of a headache. And I realized that it was just a mix of you're tired. You just need to get a little bit extra more sleep. Let's not mention that you're irritable. That is also a sign of burnout as well. And your patience is a lot less. And the things that you find passion in, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're very much career driven, and if your career and your business is like your passion and you lose that passion in anything you do, right? You're gonna that's a sign of burnout. That's a sign of like you've lost patience or you just feel lack of confidence. You're just not feeling it. And in some cases, going back to what I said, you're told to continue. You're told to just keep pushing. You're told to, no, it's okay. Like resilience, resilience, resilience. I say F that because society glorifies the hustle culture. It makes people more money, but it allows you to lose yourself. The thing is, when you're feeling these symptoms, fatigue, irritability, loss of passion in your projects, loss of patience, right? These are all signs that you just need to go sit down somewhere. These are the signs when you need to go and pour more into rest. Society doesn't want you to rest as much, primarily because it means that they're not making money. You're not pouring back into it. But if you're building anything, you're better off building it from a space of rest than building it from a space of fatigue. And that's part of the things that they don't want you to know. I've learned this because I've been burnt out time and time and time again. but I've been so burnt out to the point where I didn't realize I was burned out in that season till after the fact. It was like a functional burnout. It was just a way of like, I thought that I had to continue going because everyone else is continuing going. I don't want anyone to step in front of me. But then I realized I was stepping on my toes. I wasn't taking care of myself. And when you're not prioritizing your rest and you're not prioritizing your business, you're not prioritizing your career, you're not prioritizing your responsibilities when you're not prioritizing your rest. So there's four types of rest. As I kind of mentioned before, I physically laid down. So that's a physical rest. That's naps. I've learned to love me some good naps. I prioritize my sleep as well. If I feel like I'm tired, if not, I go to bed at a specific time as much as I can every night because I get up early. Movement as well. Believe it or not, that is rest, right? When I mean by movement, I mean going for walks, just taking yourself and separating yourself from where you are in the usual environments you're in and placing yourself outside with nature or just other areas or if being around with friends that believe it or not you're resting your mind off of would usually probably pay attention to. One of my favorite acts of rest, shout out to my RMT, um, is massages. I absolutely love massages to the point now where I fall asleep almost every time. It's a great if you have benefits that covers massages and you're not using them, what are you doing? Every year they replenish it. Start using it. Start using your benefits for that. Find an RMT that works within your benefits and start using it. Map out how many you're gonna have per quarter that's within your insurance coverage. Why not? You work hard, utilize it. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't have it, yes, you have to pay out of pocket, but still like map out how much you can afford if you can per quarter. If it just means one, okay, at least it's one better than zero, right? So that's physical rest. Mental rest. You may not like this because obviously you're watching me on it, but put down the screens, your phone, your laptop, your tablets, all of it. Take a step away. Allow your eyes to reset because obviously the blue light's not good for us anyways, and we're aware of this. So just allow your eyes to reset. Remove yourself from the area that you're in and just put the phone down. Switch it into like something as if like you could just sit in silence for 5 minutes a day. Journal. If you don't like journaling, fine. Just sit in silence 5 minutes, stare out the window, go outside, get some fresh air. Do something other than being behind the screen, especially if you work in a corporate environment. Separate yourself just a little bit for a few minutes. If you work from home, make sure that you're moving away from it on your breaks. Don't work through them. Like take your breaks and move away from your area. Emotional rest is also a big one because if you say yes to so many obligations and so many things, you're gonna find yourself feeling burned out. So if you start saying no instead of saying yes, even though that's also a boundary as well, because no is a full sentence, never forget that. That is emotional rest because you're honoring yourself in that moment and saying, no, I gotta take care of me right now. I'm gonna say no. If you're an entrepreneur and you feel as if you are getting like everything's going well. So now you're getting a lot of people coming at you saying, hey, we would love you to have you for this workshop. We love your product here and it's just back to back to back. Pause for a moment, sit down, and map out what you need. If you feel so overwhelmed, ask them, hey, like, I may not be able to do it in this quarter. How about next? This is a way that you honor your own rest, but at the same time, you're you're still taking care of business in the same realm, in the same category, right? Let's talk about creative rest. I like crosswords and sometimes I like to color. Haven't done it often, but I do like to color. I have a coloring book. Do other type of creativity beyond just your usual scrolling or journaling or walking outside. Maybe it's you do Legos, maybe you do a puzzle, maybe you do word searches, something that's like separates you away from doing the usual scrolling, focus on the business, focus on responsibilities, just something for yourself. My mom and my dad do crosswords, and I used to always think it's very odd. Like, I mean, it's such an old people thing to do. Shout out to them. But now I find myself doing it and I'm like, I get why they've been doing it for so many years. It allows your brain to just kind of relax. Obviously keeps your brain going, but at the same time it allows your brain to just kind of center and fully relax. Let's talk about micro habits when it comes towards intentionally resting. I have, and sometimes it doesn't always happen, but I do my best with it, depending if I have a client that I'm coaching. I have Sunday, which is my rest day. I actually write it inside of my agenda, inside of my book. Sundays, it's rest. If I don't do the laundry Saturday, then I do it on Sunday, and then it's meal prep or groceries. It depends. But I usually like to have the end half of my day before I come on here and do Successful Sundays with you and just do nothing but rest, like however that looks. 9 times out of 10, it's usually my couch, weighted blanket, and true crime. Don't judge me, but that's just how I like to rest. Another little habit you can do, which helps me and benefits me the most. So I used to do a have a very stressful job, and I had to say to myself, we have to figure out a way to create a boundary for my job so that I don't feel like as I get home, it's still there with me. So luckily with that job, I wore a uniform, and you could do it even if you don't have a uniform. But as soon as I stepped in my car, I was no longer their employee. As soon as I got home, my uniform went into a closet that was right by the door. So I'm separating myself from it, and that was a boundary I had. As soon as I finish my job, I am no longer an employee. I don't work for y'all. And as much as I know I gotta probably do it the next day, but it's just a way of a boundary for myself to protect and honor me. Something maybe you could think about as well of how to create a boundary with your job. Maybe even when I worked in the corporate setting, after a certain point of the day, they couldn't contact me. Whether it was 6 or 7 in the evening, I'm off the clock. Like, this is my time. And just having that boundary just for myself, it allowed me to rest more and taught me a very important lesson of how it is to create that boundary with your workplace. I'm sure you've also heard this one before. I kinda mentioned screens, and again, I'm working on it too, I'm a work in progress, right? Is creating like a wind down routine. You know, maybe at a certain point, you shut all the lights off, you get into bed, and maybe no screens. I know it's difficult because a lot of us have used screens for the last couple of years to go to sleep. The screen that I personally use is, I use it's an app called Insight Timer, and they have a lot of great sounds. I can't sleep without it now, but they have a sound on there for, like, oceans and rain. I put that thing on, I'm pretty sure within 10 to 15 minutes, I'm out like the light. And I also take magnesium before I go to bed. So those are like I have a little bit of a routine that I've created. That's after the shower. The shower and stuff is separate, but like the wind down routine is just as important because it allows me to just kind of simmer down. Another way that I also wind down in the evening is audiobooks. Right now, I'm using the Libby app because it's free. It's connected to your library card. You just have to get a library card and set it up. And that's sometimes it sucks because I fall asleep because of whoever's speaking on the audiobook. In the morning, I have to be like, "Crap," like, that's 3 or I finished the whole book. I'm like, "Okay, no, I didn't finish it, I was sleeping, so I have to go back." That's the only thing. So, out of all the steps I kinda give you there, I hope that you were able to gain some knowledge because the hustle culture will teach you that we shouldn't be resting. The hustle culture will teach us that and it glorifies not putting ourselves first because that's all rooted in capitalism. That's all rooted in how to keep the money turning. But I want to leave you with this bit of a challenge if you can. If you haven't already, schedule your rest days for this week. However it works for you. Schedule just one day that you're like, I'm going to rest for 4 or 5 hours, or you're going to rest all day. Totally up to you. But schedule it as if like you're scheduling like a meeting, an appointment. Make sure that it's there. Try it just for 1 week. Another thing I want you to try to do is create a boundary with your work. Whether it means that after a certain point, you're like, nope, this is my cutoff. Or with your business, same thing. At a certain point, this is my cutoff. Create some form of boundary with your job. And I want you to also try tonight. I'm challenging you because I'm going to do the same thing. Tonight, create a wind down routine. I know. No screens before bed. What can you do besides that to wind yourself down before you go to sleep? And I want you to just pick maybe 1 out of the 3. You don't gotta do all 3, but if you wanna do all 3, hey, by all means. But pick maybe 1 out of the 3 that you wanna try for this week. And that's all I got for you. But I'll actually, well, there's one more thing. I want you to think as you are watching this, no matter what day or what time, because this is recording obviously too. What areas of your life right now do you think you require the most rest? Or when do you need the most rest? When do you feel like you need to rest the most? After a specific day, after the end of the week? When do you need it the most? And the how can you implement it more? Because we're not going to adhere to this hustle culture anymore. We're adhering to the culture that takes care of us and honors us and promotes nothing but rest while we are building. All right, y'all. Now that's all I got for you. That's all I got. I hope y'all have a very good and dope week ahead. And I wish you nothing but blessings and peace. As always, y'all, don't forget to check out the Dope Life podcast. It's going to be coming out this Tuesday, 6:55 in the morning. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got some good gems. And as always, y'all, walk with peace and walk with love.